All right, my second grade friends, let's get started on our Japanese Notan project. So the first thing that I want you to do is you should have printed out, this would say the Notan background sheet, and then this would say the Notan template sheet. So what I want you to do is you're going to take your scissors and you are going to, it says to cut along this line. So what we're going to do is we're going to carefully cut here, and by cutting this rectangular piece off this piece of paper, now we are going to have a square piece of paper. And that was pretty much the easiest way I thought to be able to have you have a square piece of paper today, was to do it like that. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut out the shapes that are on this paper. So we are going to cut, there's a square here. So I'm just going to cut up to that line right there. And then I'm going to cut along this line here. And you want to try to cut as straight and as neatly as you can. So here's one square. And I'm going to cut the other square. And last but not least, it says to cut along this line, I'm going to cut out this rectangle here. Okay, so now I have a rectangle, I have a square, I have a smaller square, and then I have a larger square. All right, so now we're going to get started on the background for our Notan. What typically would happen is that this piece of paper would be white, and we would usually have another colored piece of paper that we would use to cut out shapes and then flip them to create the positive and the negative space with the design. But since I'm going to assume that you don't have any other colored paper in your house, what we're going to do is we're going to do the reverse today. And what we are going to do is we're going to make this white square colorful. So there are a number of ways that you can do it. If you don't have color making things in your house, such as crayons or markers or colored pencils, no worries. And the other thing, and I think I showed you that, guys, this last week when we were talking about doing a background for your Minka house, even if you only have a pencil, you can still create a rather interesting background that is rather colored in. So if you only have a pencil, I'll kind of show you some ideas here, but maybe you start by just kind of coloring, and just kind of coloring a little bit diagonally across here, and I'm making sure that I really fill in like that. So maybe I just go that way, and then maybe now I'm going to color in this direction. Then maybe I want to put some darker lines over top of that. Then I'm just kind of experimenting with scribbling up and down. making lines that go like this. And then maybe I'll turn my paper. So you can see as I'm working my way down, I'm kind of creating some interesting designs, even just with my pencil and coloring it in. Maybe I'm going to press a little bit lighter with the side of my pencil. Then maybe I want to go like that. And I can just continue down, kind of playing around. Maybe I want to try filling my paper in, making my hand kind of go a different way. So there's many ways that you can sort of get a solid or nearly solid background, even with just a pencil. So that is one way that you can do that. The other way, I'm going to flip it over, and let's say that I do have markers or crayons. What you can do is you can think about how you might want to divide your paper up, because it's probably not very exciting to just color in this whole piece of paper blue. So for example, maybe I'm going to make some horizontal lines and then just kind of then fill them in. And the cool thing is if you have different, let's see, this one is blue. If you have markers and colored pencils and crayons, you can kind of mix up the media, which is kind of nice. So I did marker, and now I'm going to do crayon. Maybe I want to go back to marker. You could also do it monochromatic, which means you're just kind of using different shades of the same color. So I'm kind of choosing blues here. So this is one way that you could do it. Maybe another way that you could do it is you might want to kind of divide it into sections. So maybe I'm going to take my crayon and kind of draw some different lines like this. And maybe I'll take some yellow. And then again, I could fill in. So just kind of have fun with it. And you don't have to rush. But you just want to kind of create an interesting, colorful background. You can also think about a theme before you get started. Maybe you just want it to be colorful. Maybe your theme is circles, so you're just going to draw colored circles and then fill them all in. Maybe you just want to draw stripes and fill those in. Maybe you want to draw wavy lines in all different directions and fill it in. So it is totally up to you. Maybe now I'm going to go like this, and I'll fill in here. So you get the idea. I'm going to continue to fill this in, and once I get it all filled in, I'm going to show you what the next step for our project will be. All right, friends, now I'm going to show you a couple ways that we can go about creating our Notan design. There are a couple of options. One of the options can be that you use this rectangular piece, and it will be positioned going down sort of the middle of your square. And then when we make our designs, we will make designs going down this side, and we will make designs going down this side. If you want to do a more traditional Notan design where we actually do designs on each side of the square, I have this larger square which gives us about this much space all the way around. If you wanted to have a little more of your background showing, I have this smaller square which you could use as well. So it's totally up to you. I'm going to show you how it kind of works with both of them. So the first option would be if you choose to do the square, then the next step that you're going to do is you're going to draw a shape along this flat side of the square. And the shape can either be an organic shape, which means that it just kind of has some wavy edges, or it can be more of a geometric shape where it just has straight edges. It's up to you, or it can be sort of a combination. I think I'm just going to kind of create my own kind of silly shape, just like that. And you don't want it to extend too far up into here because we're going to end up cutting this out and flipping it onto here, so we don't want it to be any wider than this space here. Then I'm going to turn my paper and I'm going to come up with another shape. This time maybe like that. So now this shape is different than this shape. And then maybe I'm going to kind of do something like that with more hard edges. And then last but not least, maybe to kind of match that one, I will do like that. So now I have 4 different shapes. And so what you're going to do is you're going to cut them out. So what you're going to do is you're going to carefully cut along this edge, and I'm just turning my scissors, or not, excuse me, turning the paper, but leaving my scissors in their same position. So you just want to neatly and nicely cut around the edge of this shape. Just so. It's almost like you're creating a puzzle. So I'm going to put this shape aside. You want to make sure that your shapes are distinct, which means that they are different from one another, so that when you go to fit them back together, it will be easy to tell which shape goes into which slot. So now I'm cutting out my second shape. And I'm going to do my third shape. And last but not least, my 4th shape. So as you learned about from the PowerPoint, when we cut away parts of this square, this positive space that's taken away now becomes negative space. So what we're going to do is we are going to put our square back down. We're going to try to kind of find the middle spot. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fit the pieces back into the puzzle. There. Oops. It's backwards. That one goes there. And that one goes there. Right? Now, then what we're going to do is we need to take these pieces and we just need to flip the piece out. And so it's going to go like that. So this is the positive space and this is the negative space left when we pull that shape out of there. It's going to be the same for all of these, where we're going to then flip. This one is going to get flipped and put here. This one is going to get flipped and put there. And then this one is going to get flipped and put here. So now we can start to see, if this was a solid piece of paper, the color would be showing through. So we would have, let's imagine that this was a black piece of paper, then the black would be showing through the white. But we're just kind of making do, and actually it looks kind of cool to have the different color in the background. So then the very first thing you will do to glue this is that you can sort of move these pieces away. And if I was gluing this, what I would do is I would turn this, I would move this aside, and I would take my glue stick and I would put glue around all of the edges, and then I would glue this securely down to my piece of paper, and I would rub it, and I would kind of make sure that it was in the middle, just kind of eyeballing it. And then again, I would fit my pieces in once it was glued down. And then I would just carefully, it's kind of easy to glue. So imagine that this piece, this shape is glued. So then what you would do is you would then individually pull this out, put your glue stick all over the top of that, and then you're gonna line edge up to edge up. So it's like a mirror image, right? And then you would go ahead and do it with this side. You would pull this one aside. You would put your glue all over the back of it. And then you would line it up like this. Then I would take this piece, glue stick all over it, and flip it out here. And then this piece, I'll pull it aside, glue stick all over it, and then I would place it here. Okay? And that would be your Notan design. Now, let's say you, and it would be the same using this square, but you could make your pieces a little bit wider because you have a little bit more space on either side. Just to kind of show you so it makes sense for you, if you use this square, maybe I'm going to draw that. I'm going to go that. You can even do simple shapes if you want to. It doesn't even have to be very fancy if you don't like. And this one. Right. And same thing, you would cut these out, move them away, glue this down, and then I'll show you real quick. Same thing, cut these pieces out. there I've cut out all my pieces. I would kind of find the middle, sort of see that. Now, if it's not in the middle, you'll kind of know because you'll see, oh, there's not equal distance around the edge, but if I kind of move it back like so, that is about equal distance. So what you can do is, same thing, you will take your glue stick and you will glue all over all the little edges carefully. And then you will flip this over, stick it down so that it is nice and even. And then the first thing you're going to do is put the puzzle back together. So, whoops, that goes there, that goes there, that goes there, and this goes here. And then again, we will slide this out, cover it with glue, and then we will flip it and then position it with that flat edge right there, like that. So now this is the positive space, the white is the positive space, and this part here is the negative space. Same thing here, I would put glue stick on this, and then I would flip it over so it would be like this. And then you would go ahead and do the same thing for this. Leave it facing up, put the glue on the side that's facing up, then flip it over so that it's like this. So it's a mirror image of the shape that is here. And same for this one. You're going to leave this side up, put your glue, flip it, and stick it. And there you have your Notan design. Now, if you wanted to, you could also do it in a little bit of a less traditional way, but you could still have fun with it, where you take this rectangular piece and kind of position it in the middle. And I had kind of this idea, I know that fish are a big deal in Japan, but you don't have to necessarily even do a fish shape. You could do any shape you wanted, but you can do some shapes down this side that will flip out, and then you could do some shapes down this side. So if I was thinking about my fish theme, I'm just going to draw sort of almost like a triangle, and then I'm drawing two curved lines that meet. So it's sort of like a fish shape. Then I might come down a little bit of a ways. Maybe I want to make this one with the tail bigger and the body wider. Then maybe I want to make one with a small tail and a very thin body. And then let's see, maybe I want to make one with a big tail and a really small body. So each of these fish shapes are different than the other one. Then this time I'm going to kind of stagger. So this time I'm going to draw one over on this side that is a little bit different. This one's going to be thin, and I'm going to have it be so that on this side maybe the fish's mouths are open. So I'm going to do a big tail, and then a fin fish. And then I'm going to just do one more where I do maybe a small tail, but a very big body. And this fish is also opening its mouth. Okay, and you're going to do the same thing as before. You're going to cut out your shapes, but you have to do it all at one time. So I'm just turning my paper. So there's one. I'm starting at the bottom and then just working my way up. Now these shapes are a little more complicated, but if you wanted to, you could just do simple shapes along the sides. You could draw squares or rectangles, or just kind of like a little swirly shape. There we go. There's the 4 on that side. And then I'm going to turn my paper and do the 3 that are on this side. So run there. If you make all of your shapes different, it's very easy to put all the pieces back together before you glue it. And kind of what I'm doing is I'm keeping the pieces from this side on the side that they belong, and then the pieces from this other side on the other side. Okay, so now I have all of my shapes cut. And so again, I will kind of line up this rectangular piece sort of in the middle like this, and then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to glue it. When you're putting the glue, make sure you get all of the edges so that it sticks really well. So it might take you a couple minutes to get it all nice and gluey. All right, then I'm going to flip this and I'm going to place it, it's not quite straight, so you want to make sure that the top edge and the bottom edge are lined up. And I'm just going to cinch this over just a little bit. And then I'm going to give it a little massage. If it's easier, you can also flip it over and give it a rub and then kind of flip it back over to this side. So now it's time to put the puzzle back together. If you have a couple little edges that are still flipped up, you can sort of put some glue underneath. Notice this little part right was sticking up. Okay, then we are going to find our pieces and put them back together. If you weren't able to cut accurately sort of around your pencil lines, that's okay. You can go back and take your eraser, and then I'm just gently erasing. pencil line. Just got a little bit of glue stick stuff there, but that's okay. There we go. This little piece was sticking up. Okay, so now I'm ready to fit my fish shapes back in. So I'm going to fit them back in. And this one goes here. This big guy goes down here. And this little guy goes up here. And then what you will do is the final step is you are going to take this one, and I'm just taking it and sliding it. It's still facing up, and putting glue on the side that's facing up, which is not normally what we usually do. Then I'm taking the fish and flipping the gluey side over and lining up that flat tail with that like that. So now I have a positive shape of the fish, and then what's left behind is the negative shape of the fish. And I'll just work my way up. Same thing, I'm gonna take this guy and just move it down here. And so I'm putting glue on the side that was facing up. Then I'm going to flip it over and then line up the edge of the tail with the edge of the paper. Like that. So now I have positive, negative. Then I'm going to slip out this little guy. Noticed I had like a little bit of pencil line right there. Okay, he's still the same side facing up as he was here. I'm putting some glue onto that top side, and then I am flipping and lining it up like that. So now I have this side done, and then I'm going to go over to this side. So same thing, I'm going to take this fish and just take it out. It's still facing up. I'm going to glue it, flip it, and then line up the edge here. Same thing here. This guy's coming down. It's getting glued. Like that. So I have positive, negative, and then I just have two more. So I'm going to pull this guy down, glue, line up those edges, take this guy, here you noticed I have some pencil lines there, I'm just going to carefully erase. Then I'm going to glue, and then stick. And there is my Notan design. All right, so I just wanted to review with you guys real quickly. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to color the square that you cut out from the larger piece of copy paper that you print out. And if you have an idea of some shapes that you want to do ahead of time, that can kind of determine how you color this background. And if you want it to be all solid, it can be just all one solid color. Or if you have, let's say you do have a piece of solid colored paper, you could take this square, lay it on top of the paper, like let's pretend that this is colored paper. You could take this square, lay it on top of the colored paper, draw, make sure it's lined up nice and evenly, and then you could draw a line down on your colored paper and then cut here. And then you would have a piece of paper that you could use. Also, if you had, let's say you have watercolor paints or other kind of paints, you could take the piece of paper, the square that you have, and you could paint it and let it dry. And then you can go ahead and choose either to do the rectangular strip with positive and negative shapes going down each side, or you could choose to do the square option where you have the shapes that will flip one on each side of the square. So it's totally, here I'll move that down. So it's totally up to you how you choose to do it. But it's kind of cool how you can see really well the negative space that was created when this shape is flipped out. So I hope you have fun. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to stop by my office hours. And I'm so excited, I can't wait to see what you create.